In today's video, I'm taking a cheap AliExpress amplifier and turning it into a solution for audio from a Chromecast. When I'm in my workshop, I like to have YouTube playing in the background. Keeps me motivated and entertained and just generally stops me from getting bored. When I originally set up the audio solution for this room, I just used this cheap little VGA monitor that didn't have audio output. I used an HDMI audio extractor to pipe the audio from the Chromecast into some old speakers that I had lying around. And unfortunately, they just don't sound that great. And actually, given how much noise is in this room, it's really difficult to hear. Now, I could repurpose a home theater stereo, but given that I have limited space in my workshop, this desk is pretty tiny. Those things throw off a lot of heat, and it's really just overkill for my solution. So what I'm going to do is take parts of my old setup, salvage some parts that I have around my workshop, and turn it into an all-in-one solution that I can use for audio at my desk in my workshop. Let's get to it. So this is the solution that I was trying before. These are some wireless speakers I've had for a while. They have built-in amplifiers, but the quality is not that great. They sound pretty tinny, and they have a small reflector here that's supposed to help direct the sound, and they expand a bit to give them a little bass. But basically, these are completely useless. You can't hear anything on them. They do have some sort of chaining mode where you can connect one to another. The output on one is mirrored to the other. I don't think it's necessarily right and left. I haven't tested it because these are really just not that great. So anyways, this is what I'm going to replace. So this is our little AliExpress amplifier. Basically a bare circuit board. Comes with a remote. Seems reasonably nice. It has a voltage input, raw sound input. And the hope is that it should be able to send the HDMI output into this thing and have it come out some old Bose speakers I've got kicking around. This is the last piece of the puzzle. This is the HDMI to component adapter. Basically just takes HDMI, outputs video, which we're going to ignore because this is just the for sound. We'll take the RCA stereo out, make some sort of adapter, or maybe sacrifice a cable, I'm not sure, and plug it into that. Now these two are two leftover Bose wall mount speakers. They're supposed to work with the Bose set, but I've tested it before with just a straight audio amplifier. Basically these two little bits here take speaker wire and they work as you'd expect. I don't think they have the polarity labeled on them, but that shouldn't matter as long as it's the same on both. So these are all the different parts we're going to put together here. Now the question is, how do we power this thing? So it comes with these three cables, one for power, one for left speaker, one for right speaker. So I've checked the specs on this thing, and it is 6 to 12 volts. So I guess this is supposed to be powered by a car battery. I'm not sure exactly how you'd work this thing in a car, maybe a very small car, maybe a boat, I'm not sure. So what we can do is try giving this somewhere near the minimum, somewhere around 6 volts, see if this thing powers up, and then see if it can actually power speakers. The specs say that it's 50 watts. A little doubtful that it can do that much, but we shall see. What we can do here is just pop it on a 9 volt. I did have to look up which side is positive, but apparently it's the small one. Let's just give it a shot and see if we get any sign of life. Hi. Bluetooth. Great. Okay, now let's try with a speaker. Okay, we can see it lit up. Aha, it's working. Great. That was pretty decent. So we know it's going to work. That's a good sign. We've got two items here that this guy here takes 5 volts, DC 5 volts. I'm not sure how much current this requires. I should probably test that out. And this guy can take anywhere from 6 to 12 volts. So there's two options I'm going to take a look at. I have a few of these kicking around. These are dual 5 volt, 12 volt adapters. Now, this one says it can do 12 volts, 1.8 amps. In theory, this is a 50 watt amplifier. I'm not sure if that's going to be drawing 50 amps. I'm not sure if I underpower this thing a bit. I mean, I'm not going to be blasting these speakers. So we might be okay with this. Definitely going to be less than 50 watts. The other option is salvage this ages ago from one of those IDE drive-in closures, which obviously don't find a lot of use for these days. Power supply is very nice. Obviously, dual 12 volt, 5 volt. It should be detachable from this, so I think I'm going to give a shot taking this apart first, and we'll see where this leads us. What's funny is I don't have any Nest thermostats anymore, but I have tons of these screwdrivers from all the different ones I've installed over the years. They're surprisingly handy. They're a decent size for small screws like this. Okay, not the right size. All right, time to file out the fun screwdrivers. Screws are a bit stiff, but one and two. All right, that's coming loose. Okay, got that loose. And this should separate nicely, or at least maybe it will free the power supply. Okay, getting closer. Let's see. Aha! Okay, that freed both of them up. And interestingly, that audio jack is there. Okay. This is a nice little headphone jack. Actually, we could potentially use that for this project. I'm going to set that aside. Yeah, so that's very, very, very old USB 2 to ISA adapter with FireWire. I think I used this for a CD-ROM drive many years ago. I wonder, I think this might be useful to keep around. We have a little power LED. We have the Molex. So I think I'm actually going to reattach those screws. It gives us a little nice backplate for whatever enclosure this ends up in. Probably I should test this thing before I make any more plans. Okay, throw the switch. And nothing. What's going on here? Well, first of all, this light, which does seem to be driven by the power supply, doesn't seem to be on. Maybe there's some magic here that I need to... maybe I actually need this board here. This goes in this way. So clearly, the top row pins is power. So let's put that guy in there. All right, let's see now. What happens when I give this power now? Do we get light? There's no, oh, there's the light. Okay. Now, do we get power? Aha, we do. Hey there, this is Matt from the future. I spent a little while trying to figure out why I wasn't getting stable voltage out of this power supply. It was always stable when the controller PCB was hooked up, but it wouldn't always give a stable voltage when there was no load. I experimented with adding a small load resistor to the output, and this helped to get to a stable output. Now, it's been a while since I took any classes around controller systems, but I'll see if I can explain it. Now, this is a particularly old and probably a very cost-optimized power supply. It wasn't designed to provide stable power with no load because it's embedded in a device where there will always be at least some load from the USB controller board. Switching power supplies like this are built around feedback loops, and cheaper ones have simpler control systems that just don't guarantee stability outside of a certain range and characteristic of load. Without any load, the internal feedback loops might overcompensate and lead to wild swings. They might require at least some current draw to produce a stable voltage like we got to in the end. let's try powering this guy up and let's see what happens. Suck it up to the 12. Okay, we'll power this up and see if we get something. Aha, okay. We just weren't making good contact. There we go. So we need a better setup. I found these little tiny heat shrink and solder combo things a while back. These are just really nice for making small connections like this. You slide it over the wire like you would with heat shrink, and it's this little tiny ball of solder inside. Obviously, you don't want to use this if you're making connections with something that's going to move around a lot, but if we just want to connect these two guys together here, just saves having to get out the soldering iron. It's probably faster to solder if you've got to do a lot of these, but since I'm just doing this one little connection here. Challenge, of course, is getting it to slide over this braided cable, which seems to be happening. Very small version of these. Doesn't necessarily cooperate with this braided cable, so just upgrade to a larger size here. You can just light it up and melt that solder. Once the solder melts, then you can spent a little bit too much time on that one. Yeah, when it starts to sizzle, that's definitely when you've gone too far. There we go. Just get that heat shrink to grab onto the yellow. Okay, there we go. Almost. You don't want it to catch fire. Like I singed the other one a little. Obviously, I could be getting the heat gun out here too, which would be much nicer. But again, just want to do this quick, get this. Don't want to spend too much time digging stuff out. Okay, I have two nice little joints. And turn this guy on. We should just get power right away now. All right, there we go. We have a good solid connection. So in the first video, I managed to prove that the amplifier works. I hooked it up to power, it turned on, and it made sound through the speakers. In the next video, I'm going to take the HDMI audio extractor, give that some power, and then put the entire thing in a little tiny temporary enclosure so I can get going with it and actually start using it. And hopefully, midnight is not going to be as curious. See you next time.